everybody to the Johnny Drinks podcast. I'm your co-host, Johnny. I'm here with...
This is John.
And my good friend for 3 years, I would say now.
3 days.
Don't get it wrong, John.
Three
days.
3 whole hours. Gavin Adin, how are you, man?
I am phenomenal. Thank you both for having me on this podcast.
Absolutely.
Super excited to be here. Very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, man. You look great today, by the way. You know, and it's funny. I dressed down.
Crush. Here comes the man crush.
I dressed down a little bit because I was like, I want to accommodate. He's a gym goer. He wears gym outfits a lot, and so I didn't know what he was going to come, wearing. And if you saw him, if you're watching this, I mean, like he's going on a date.
Looking Aki. Listen. I can't let everyone know my next move, okay? I have to switch it up every now and then. And you know what? I figured, why not? I mean, this is the Johnny Drinks podcast, after all. This is like one of the best podcasts in the country, soon to be the globe.
Wow.
You have to represent. You have to show up proper.
Good point. Good point.
No, you look great, man. And quick congratulations. It's funny, when we had Bo on, it was coming off one of his big wins. I want to congratulate you for what happened out at Sheffield in the UK. I want to get into that. So how do you feel, I guess, everything going on now, how do you feel with the performance you had?
It's kind of bittersweet. I'm proud of the performance, I would say. But, of course, I'm still disappointed. We had big goals, and we came very close to achieving those big goals. And this is one of the first times in my powerlifting career where we really did achieve those goals, but just by technicalities and things, it was kind of stripped away from us. So it is definitely bittersweet, but I wouldn't have it any other way, man. I think we put on a great show. I think people got what they came for, and now it's left me even hungrier for what comes next. So
right. I mean, if I'm understanding this correctly, John, you introduced him, but in short, he lifts things up and puts them down. Yes,
that's literally all he does.
Okay, so lifts things up and puts them down.
I compete in powerlifting. So, yeah. For those of you guys who don't know, it's a squat, bench, and deadlift. You get 3 attempts at each of them. Meets are usually about 3 hours long. You've got 3 judges, 1 in front, 2 on the sides. It's as simple as that. There are things that you have to accomplish. For example, like squats, you have to hit depth, let's say. Deadlifts, you have to fully lock out the knee, things like that. But yeah, more or less it's just squat, bench, and deadlift. That's pretty much all I do.
Oh, wow. That sounds
not easy.
That sounds fun. Alrighty. No, well, okay, so I jumped into it. Walk us through, I guess, what you just went through, right? So you were selected, why, and what were you selected for?
Yeah, so I actually just had the opportunity to, what John's referring to is the opportunity to compete in by far the biggest powerlifting event ever in history. Tested, untested, doesn't matter. It was phenomenal. It was awesome. It was held in Sheffield in the UK, my first time being in England. And essentially what they did was SBD, who's one of my sponsors, but they're a massive equipment manufacturer in the sport. What they did was they invited all of the best world champions that natural powerlifting has to offer. So people who are not using performance-enhancing drugs, the best that the world has to offer, and they put us all up against each other. So we all battled head-to-head. And I ended up placing 3rd, would have placed 1st, but I had a world record squat that I hit, that the judges made it a good lift. And then after the fact, the jury decided to overturn it because another coach protested it.
Who was the other coach?
This guy, Ben Ezro, he was actually an old coach of mine as well. Yeah.
Wait. Hold on.
Yep.
For those who don't understand and are trying to follow, raise your hands. Okay, so including me. I understand the premise of what you're doing. Explain to me how judges can say you're good. Right?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And then someone else from the audience says, how's that work?
It's a phenomenal question. So basically the way it works is you have 3 referees, right? Each one represents a white or a red light. If you get a white light, it's a good lift, red light, bad lift. You need at least 2 out of 3 for it to be a good lift, right? So 2 white lights out of 3. If you only get 2 white lights and one judge has given you red, the jury, which is 3 other people, they kind of sit to the side. They have the ability and the authority to overturn it. Now, normally they won't do that. The only time when they usually will, or they'll at least look at it, is if an opposing coach protests it. So let's say you and I were competing against each other, right? John's your athlete, and I'm competing against John. And I have a squat that probably will beat him in the long run, right? If I get that squat, my total is going to be higher, whatever. So you say, you know what? He got 2 white lights. I'm going to protest it. So you go to the jury. I believe you put up like €100 or 100 USD or something. You
gotta pay.
You have to put up money.
This man.
You have to put up money. Dude, that guy protested like 8 lifts. He's out like $1,000.
Good.
Anyway, so you put up money. The jury will then take a look at the lift. If they feel you were correct and they overturn it, you get your money back. If they say, nope, we don't care. We're going to keep it. Then you get your money back, and that's it. Or sorry, they keep your money, and that's it. So that's essentially what happens. So the audience can't do anything. The jury has the authority to overturn what the referees do.
You get your money back if it is overturned?
If yeah. So if you were correct in your challenge,
Right.
you get your
So
money
it's
back.
kind of getting the flag back.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
crazy.
Yeah.
So in this case, you did a squat,
Yep.
a record breaking,
740-pound squat, broke the world record by at least 10 pounds. And that would have set me up for a massive world record total, would have put me in first, would have won like 50 grand, whole nine. And and it only got it got 2 white lights out of 3.
So I got 2 white lights and a red.
Yes.
And then this other disgruntled coach.
Another coach.
I don't know
yep.
the guy, so I'm not throwing out.
He's a good guy. It's
But
just,
here's
you
the
know.
first time I'm hearing this, and to me, it sounds like sour grapes, right? It just does. If he's a former coach of yours, and he contested your lift when there was 2 white lights, I don't know. That just sounds like he's a little pissy on something. So now he goes and puts his €100 up, and goes to the jury, and then the jury looks at the lift, I guess.
So I don't know if they
Video?
have instant replay.
Yeah.
A lot of times they don't, and it's just based on memory, which is
Oh, yeah,
so
actually.
asinine.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That
These are some of the issues.
Wait a minute. Where does the money go? Into the pockets of these fucking judges?
Correct.
Are you serious?
But keep in mind though, it's technically it would not. Well, I mean, I guess technically it goes to the IPA, like the federation, but it's not in their best interest to keep the money, hypothetically, right? Like, because again, it's in the best interest of the coach protesting to be correct.
Oh, right. Because
So
they didn't make
and
the
if he's
money.
correct, then he would get his money
He gets
back.
money back.
Sure.
So look, man, it is what it is. But yeah, it can be a little tricky, a little complicated, but it is what it is. My stance on it, it's a rule. You're allowed to protest other lifters' lifts. Personally, I think it's weak, soft, and kind of dishonorable. I don't think you should, you shouldn't have to take something away from someone to be better than them, right? But a lot of coaches in the game don't see it that way, and that's totally fine. I mean, it's part of the rules. But yeah, so that's what happened.
And then you had to do the lift over.
No. So you only get 3 attempts. Usually what people will do is they open at a weight that's, let's say, a weight that they could do for 3 reps or so. And then their second attempt might be somewhere between something that is like their current best or maybe slightly under. And then their third attempt is usually when they try and reach a little bit. It all depends on the meet, the atmosphere, what you're fighting for, the whole 9. At my level, things are, your margin of error is much smaller. You don't get to just kind of make mistakes and miss attempts because every kilo counts, so to speak. So everything matters when it comes to your total because you want to win, right? And so we just can't make mistakes, But despite having that squat overturned, we still podiumed. We still, won money, and we made sure people understood that I am one of the best in the country. So
And that's because your other lifts were that
yes, yeah,
good.
to be
Right.
frank.
So you went 8 for 9, right? The other lifts.
I went 8 for 9. Yeah.
Interesting. Because he gets 3 lifts. So he gets squat, bench, deadlift by 3. And then so he
They take
that
the
was
best.
only-
They take the best of each. Again, there is judging criteria. Usually, people won't miss on strength. Usually, be due to like a technicality or something like that.
How did you feel at this? Can we pull up the video? Do you have the video?
I have the video on my phone.
Do you have the phone? I want to show
I have
him.
the squat.
I saw the video. Actually,
No, I don't think you saw the 750 one.
I saw the deadlift.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
that.
the deadlift
rest of
was
the bench.
750. The squat was 740.
Yeah.
Just scroll to that last video.
So while you're pulling it up, explain to, again, people who don't know, look, right here,
Look.
kilo, pound.
yeah, it's just
So-
difference in conversions.
Sure. It's the difference in conversions, but how many kilos to a pound or how much?
2.2. About.
So it's 2.2.
So you would multiply your kilo by 2.2, and that'll give you what it is in pounds.
Okay. Got it. Let me see that.
That's the squat he missed. Now, do you think it looked?
Wait.
Oh, my bad.
Do it again.
Sorry.
Wow. Because I'm going to give you. So if I'm understanding, like a squat, you have to come down to a certain level, hold it.
You don't have to hold it. You just have to hit depth. So the hip crease has to go below the knee crease.
Now, 2 to 1, you did it.
Yeah, but
What?
right.
This is a bunch of crap.
Yeah, so
This
I
is
got
a
it,
bunch
and
of-
then they
that's
overturned it.
unbelievable.
Yeah, that's how a lot of people felt.
That's not right.
How
That's
did it
not
feel?
right.
It looked great.
Oh, it was unreal, man. It was crazy because in South Africa. So for people who don't know, so I'm a junior world champion powerlifter, and I competed in my first open world championship last summer in South Africa, and I placed 4th at that championship. And again, similar situation. I probably would have won or at least placed second had I hit my third squat, which would have been a world record squat. At that time, it was 733. That one I had missed it on depth. The judges didn't give it to me at all. And I felt that that was fair. So going into this meet, this was now almost like my second opportunity, my second chance to hit what I missed the first time, right? And I finally got it. Like, I felt like I finally got it, and we did more, and we did it on the biggest stage powerlifting has to offer. Incredible feeling. It was awesome. So then to have it stripped away, I mean, it was, oh man, dude. I mean, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And so again, the way they do it is it's a squat, then the bench, then the deadlift. So I want to ask you the question. I mean, that's got to be such an emotional roller coaster of you're on the highest of highs, hyped up to now go into your bench. Now in your mind, like, shit, I have to rely on my second squat. What's your head like at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's like, it's probably no different than it would be for anybody that's pursuing anything worth pursuing. Like, you put in a lot of work, a lot of effort to achieve something, and no matter what the pressure is, no matter what adversity comes your way, you can't just give up. And I think anybody who's pursued anything that they're passionate about would agree. It's not even like a decision. You don't even think about it, right? You just keep going. That's what it felt like. So going into my bench and my deadlift, I knew I was like, I didn't care about the podium. I didn't care about the money. Even going into the meet, I didn't care. My goal was to push my body to its breaking point. I wanted to see what I was capable of. And that's exactly what we did. And I knew that if I did that successfully, no one would come close, which is almost what happened. So going into bench, I mean, don't get me wrong. I had to kind of take a couple moments. I mean, I was fuming. I was super, super angry and, whatever. And I had to kind of compose myself and then just keep moving forward. But that's all it was. You just keep moving forward. I also got very lucky.
That's how winning is done.
Yeah, that's right, baby. That's right. I got lucky, man. There's over 2,000 people in that stadium. And so every time I stepped down onto that platform, that's the energy I was receiving, which no other powerlifter in history can say that they've had that they've experienced that. So they helped me in a way. Like, they brought me back to life in some ways.
Yeah, but I also want to say too, because I've known you now for a while, and that's I've never seen that energy out of you. You came with a different persona that was like this man that just knew he had it, right? And I think you say they gave it to you, but you earned it. Like, you know what I mean? Yep. You walked out there and demanded it from the crowd and from the other competitors that, like, this is that dude that either A, we want to watch, or B, we have to now beat, right? So you set the standard. Even, your hair, just the aura you had about you, I think is different in a good way, and is now what you're going to carry on for Worlds and any other tournament or competition you
yeah, dude, absolutely. And like, it's crazy. I mean, I appreciate that you noticed that, because we've known each other for a minute, and since the time that we became friends to now, I've become the junior world champion. I've become one of the best. We've done it, right? And so, like, what I've noticed is I've taken a lot of L's, and I continue to take a lot of L's. There's a lot of failure, and to this day, I almost feel like there's more failure than there was before. But what that's done is it's helped it humiliates you, so you realize you ain't shit no matter what, which is really awesome feeling, because now you have the freedom to mess up, right? The second thing it does is it almost like it hardens you in a way where you no longer care about the noise. You don't care about what people say, whether it's good or bad. You don't care what people think. You're in it purely for your own intention of, let's say, being the best, right? And so for me, that's what happened, dude. Like, coming into this competition, I genuinely did not care if I won. I didn't care if I placed anything. I didn't like the world record. So I'll give you guys an example. The world record is 729. So the easier route would have just been take 731 or something like that, right? Sink it, be done with it. But I didn't. I went right past and I went to 741. And the original plan was to go to 750. Because to me, it's like, if I'm not showing up to pull punches. That's not what we're here for. I'm trying to be a champion, so I'm going to behave like that. I'm going to hold myself to that standard. That's what this was about. So, I have a phrase that I kind of like lived by for this prep. If you're going to take the island, you burn your ships. And that's what it was. We burned our ships.
Burning of the ships. I bet you a lot of people don't know what that comes from.
Honestly, the first person I heard it was from Tony Robbins. But I bet you it goes way beyond, way before him.
It has exactly to do with that. I mean, that once you leave the ship and hit land, there's no going back. The ship's gone. You're burning it. So you better survive on the island.
Yeah. And now my mindset going into this world's because of this. We're not just burning my own ships. I'm burning theirs as well. So they have nowhere to go and they're stuck with me.
There you go.
And that's it, baby.
Yeah. Like I said, man, now you're the standard. And I think that's, you burnt your ships. And at this point, right, unfortunately with the 740 squat,
yep,
I guess you kind of consider it a failure because you didn't get it. And then now you get to look yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, now what, right? Like, what's the worst that happened? It just happened. I failed.
Right.
You thankfully now get to keep moving on, and eventually you're going to achieve those goals. But I think the most impressive part about the journey, and I want to get to like the day one when you started powerlifting, is I've seen you progress so much that I sometimes have to take a step back, because I look at you as not only a really good friend, and I'm not going to call you my best friend because I heard on another podcast somebody asked him who his best friend and it wasn't me. So you're my really good friend.
Whoa.
Yeah, he's like my best friend so and so. Oh, my really good friend John. Whatever. I'm not gonna get fucking
friend.
angry and kick him out. But
You're my friend, John. I'll be your friend.
no, so I've seen this guy, and I look at him now as Gavin, the world champion powerlifter. He's strong, but I look back and I remember him being really, really excited to hit a PR of 683 squatting, which was
personal record, PR.
right,
Yep.
which was gigantic back then. But you look now and he's hitting 740 squats. So this man is at the top of the top, and he's still progressing year by year. So I think that's just incredible that people think that you always start, right? You've always been this champion, but it's not the case. Like, take us through your journey as a weightlifter.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you're my bestest friend. I just couldn't let everybody know, because then they would know the key to my heart, John.
That's
I
it.
can't give them that
All right,
power.
fair enough.
All right.
Good cover up.
No, man, it's tough because like it's peaks and valleys. You know what I mean? It's never just this straight linear progression. But yeah, so I mean, long story short, the day that I decided to start powerlifting was like one of the lowest lows in my life when I was in college. And, you know, I played sports my whole life. I had always loved lifting. And I had transferred to Colgate University, which is where I have my undergraduate degree from. And I was like my sophomore year, junior year. And it was like really cold at night, finished at the gym, and I didn't have a good workout. And I got in the car, it was snowing. And I was like, man, dude, I hate my life. Something's got to change. I don't know what I'm doing. What am I working towards? And that's when I felt like I was like, I know I was born to be a champion. I was always inspired by guys like Arnold, you know? And so I knew that that's what I was meant for. I just wasn't on that path yet. And so I felt like, I'm done. I don't care. I'm going to become a world champion. What can I get into? What's going to be the vehicle that gets me there? And it literally just so happened to be powerlifting. Like it wasn't like I loved powerlifting. I loved the sport. Honestly, I used to talk shit about the sport when I was in Olympic lifting out of an academy. So, you know, for me, it was more so, what can I do to become the world champion that I know I'm born to be? And powerlifting happened to be it. And so, yeah, so I decided I was going to do it, got into prep, found a coach, started competing. My first meet was New Jersey States in 2019. I won that. And then that was it. You know, I kept kind of going forward.
Wow. Interesting. So wait, where did you two meet? Was it a gym of all places?
Met at the gym, and he corrected my form, and I was like, what the
His
fuck?
squat form, yeah.
You did? You went up to him and correct with squat form?
He's like, hey, buddy, just so you know, that looked like shit. Do you mind if I just get back here? And I was like,
Oh,
dude,
it
what?
was squatting, right?
I was- no,
he was
I-
very wide and barefoot when he
He
squats.
had a very interesting way of squat. Yeah, he was so what happened was, it was over COVID, and we were training at this gym in Pompton Lakes, and it was like nobody else there. I'm walking by him, and I see he was squatting, but on his phone was a video. This like everybody watches it. It's these famous powerlifters, Mark Bell and Ed Cohen. It's this squat video.
Yeah.
And that's how I knew he needed help with his squat, because I saw the video. I was like, oh, I've watched that a million times. He must need help with his squat. Then we started conversation, started talking a little bit, and then we would see each other every now and then in the gym, and then he just fell in love with me. So
That's cool. Well, hold on,
And
of
so
course.
that makes way more sense. No, he came up to me very, and normally you hear that and you're like, that guy's a dick. But he came up to me very respectfully. He was like, hey man, something like, you mind if I like, you know, help you out with your form? And I was like, yeah, sure. Help me out. And I was like, oh, this guy's nice. And then he starts deadlifting, and I was like, oh, he looks kind of strong. I think he had like 405 on, and I was like, oh, that moved pretty fast. And then he had 5 plates on. I was like,
Oh,
and then 6 and 7. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, hey, man, how much do you squat? He's like, oh, you know, like 680 or something like that. I was like, who are you? I was like, what's going on? So that ever since then, we became really close. And again, like I said, I've been able to thankfully join the journey that he's been
That's
on.
great.
So
Well,
That's good stuff.
It's
I
been
like
a
that.
two-way street, though, because at that time, Johnny Drinks, the page
Did not
like, on
exist.
TikTok was like 200,000 followers.
oh, yeah.
Dog, it was
right.
like 220.
You're right,
Not
you're
even.
right.
There was nothing else other than that.
Yeah.
And like he was, what we felt like, both of us felt like he was killing it at that time.
Yeah.
And so, dude, it's a two-way street, man. And I'm sure we'll talk about this, but you know, you are the crowd you keep. And like, yeah, I had lifting, but this man was at the time you had Stunited, which
Right.
was an app that
Yeah.
you built from the ground up, right? So like, you were doing your thing in a different field, you know, and we were both kind of like, I felt like maybe you were a little bit further ahead than I was at that time, but in our respective industries, we were both almost at the same point in terms of the, the inflection point, so yeah, it was cool, man.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I even like, and you talk about like your past failures, and sometimes even like saying that. I told you the other day, like even saying that word "studenited" like irks me. Like, it almost like it's like an embarrassment. You don't want to even believe it was a part of you, but it is. You have to realize and appreciate that, because you can reflect and look back and be like, you know what, I have come pretty far from there, and it's just exciting to see where you're going to go. And in a year from now, look at yourself and say, wow, I thought I was so big, and I really wasn't. So with that, I want to get into a couple of other different things, but I will take a quick commercial break, and we're going to be back very soon.
A few moments later.
And we're back. Good?
Yep.
Are we back?
Yeah, we're back.
We're back. And we're back.
Rolling.
No, you mentioned how you said you were at like your lowest of your lows at 20-some years old, and that's what got you into powerlifting. When you say low, like how low did you really feel?
Well, I think for me, and like at least at that time in my life, my concept of rock bottom is very different than my concept of rock bottom now. But at that time, it felt like rock bottom. You know, I was in a strong relationship, but at that time, the relationship was rocky. On top of that, I had just transferred schools, didn't know anybody, wasn't truly sure what I wanted to do with my life in terms of career. It was cold as fuck all the time, which kind of sucks. Because you're in upstate New York, it's always snowing. And like when you walk to class and the wind is smacking you in the face. So I think everything all together kind of just created this melting pot of, dude, what is the point of my life right now? What am I doing? And you have no motivation. And again, the one thing that always stayed constant was training, was the gym. It was either always for a sport, always to get better at something. At this point, there was no purpose for it. So I felt like I was kind of putting in all this work for nothing. I was like, yeah, it's great. I get to come home. My mom says, oh my gosh, you look like you're getting bigger. Great job. Like that's it. She fuels my ego and that's it. So I felt like there was nothing more to it. And I felt like, again, dude, I always had this idea. I think for me, this has kind of always been the problem. There will always be a gap between what I believe I'm capable of and where I'm at. And that gap will always be massive. And that gap will always be growing larger and larger, right? And I am a high achiever. And so that's how I think. What messes me up is two things. One, when you get lost in like the self-doubt of, man, maybe I'm not cut out for this, which kind of, if you let that spiral, becomes like this sense of despair, right? And that's kind of where I was at that point. But the second thing is just this overwhelming sense of just being lost. Like, what you're meant for. You know you're meant to arrive at a destination, but you have no idea how to get started with that. And that's how I felt. So it was kind of the combination of those two things. Was my life absolutely horrible? No. At that time, was I going through some things, deaths in the family and stuff like that? Sure. But it was not devastating compared to what other people have to go through. But at that time, I think it was kind of like that version of rock bottom.
So what's different about that experience at 20 years old? How old were you?
At that time, I was like 20, 21.
20. Yeah, you're in school still. So what's different today than those experiences when you were 20?
Well, I think I've grown a lot. I've matured a lot. I've been very lucky to experience a lot and build strong relationships with people who are kind of going through the same thing. Like John's a really good friend of mine, but it's I knew he was going to say it. He's my best friend, my bestest friend. But he goes through some of the same stuff. Like, it's where we're at in our life. And so the difference is, again, maybe the industry is different. Maybe the pursuit itself is different, but the journey doesn't change. Like, it's going to be a grind. You're going to have stuff that you're going to face, and it's going to knock you down. When you surround yourself with people who are like-minded, at least to the degree of trying to achieve something more than what they currently are, that's something alone that you can assimilate with. You can almost agree with, you can get with, and so that's changed a lot too. At that time in my life, I did not have that. I wasn't really surrounded by those types of people. And then, in terms of like rock bottom situations now, it's really more so just everything weighs heavier.
That's really interesting. I hear this throughout a lot of conversations with people your age, right? And you said it, and this is what when you say this is what I hear, right? You are here and you have expectations of being there. Yet probably when you were here, you were doing better than you really gave yourself credit for, because you were doing some of the right constructive things, whether it was going to college or being mindful about what you ate and how you treated your body and worked out and all those things. So at that level, at that time, The only thing that really probably affected you, and probably still today does affect you, and affects most young people until they go through a lot of these valleys and then come out and go to the peak again and hit another valley, is you realize, through experience and through time, it's okay to be comfortable where you are. Like where you are and the things you're doing are perfectly fine. Limit, to a certain degree, those false expectations. Yeah, you want to be one of the best in the world. It'll come. Keep doing the right activities. It'll come. When the younger people who have not experienced what it is to feel free and get through that, they haven't experienced it yet because they keep putting way too much pressure on what's out there in front and what everyone else is doing, and the race against I don't know what. So the generational gap here, and I even remember when I was 20 years old, I didn't have the thoughts that you guys have. I just didn't. I knew I wanted to be successful, whatever that was. I knew I wanted to make money. I knew I wanted to have a family. I wanted all the same things. I wanted to own a home. But it was very different in that I knew where I was first. And knowing where you are first and knowing you're doing the right things is much more important than this expectation of what you may have for yourself. So good for you that you are now looking at things a little differently. And as you go through some of the things that you just went through, carry that forward and learn just that, no, I am good. I am one of the best in the world. I'm going to go there, and maybe I don't care how I finish, but I really do care because I want to knock everyone's dick in the dirt. Right? Yeah.
I think that's the interesting part of like you being a father. And I think one of the biggest reasons people are going to watch this is maybe like the lifestyle and family advice and how to be a great dad, but there's also the reverse of like how to be a great son. And that's something I wanted to talk about too, is you got to understand like when your dad says something like that to you or vice versa, right? He doesn't understand why we put so much pressure on ourselves, because when he was our age, he didn't feel that. Well, he didn't have the exposure to success like we do every single day. And I put quotations around that because some of it's not even fucking real. Like a lot of the stuff we see online where we see, oh, I want to be that. Well, you're watching a highlight reel. And I know these guys behind the camera are really good at their job. They make a burger look like it's this sensational project that somebody made in 30 seconds. So when you see somebody that's on a Miami yacht with all these girls and this money and they don't work anymore, you feel guilty and self-doubt because, oh, I thought I was doing well, but now compared to that person, I'm not. So this comparison game, yeah, everybody says you shouldn't play, but I think it's a lot harder for our generation. And I say generation, I mean, I'm 3 years older than Gavin, or 2 years, and I feel even the gap, right? Like I can see you, and maybe just from the space you're in, and I think I can provide like a little bit of insight, like, hey, look, man, try to focus in as much you versus everybody else as you can, because I see it and I get it too. But I've always like dismissed things that you've said because you just don't get it. Mm-hmm. But I have to take a step back and realize you're doing the best you can, and you're trying to understand me as much as I'm trying to understand you.
Yeah, no, that's the healthy exchange here. That's why I'm gifted that I have these opportunities to just even be in this room, right? As much as I may contribute at certain times, there's a lot of other times that's not my place because I don't know it. I don't know what you guys truly go through in the experience of that white noise and the influence and the pressure. But differently, don't think for a second, when I was 20 years old, there wasn't pressure. There was pressure in and around everything that we did. You know, I saw people on the street look sharper than me, driving nicer cars. All the same things, it just wasn't magnified.
Right. What you saw was real.
What I saw was real. And I saw the imperfections of people. And I've told this story before, and I'll say it real quick. I got into the financial industry, mortgage financing, and I said, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to put my head down and go after it. Someone said, go through that door. I'm going to go through that one. I'm going to go through the next one. And it just point me in the direction I go. And there was a guy who was very successful. I never knew who he was. And I was chasing after him because in my backyard, he was the guy. He was the guy getting all the business. He was doing it longer, and he was the end-all be-all. And I finally ran into him. And when I saw him, I was like, that's the guy? Like, if this guy who was sloppy, completely disheveled, not really impressive at all. He couldn't even barely say hello to me. Like I said, this is the guy? I got this. I got it. And I don't even know what it was. But so the point is, that's something that you have already found. You found it and you found it. And younger people listening, you have it. You just need to celebrate it and bring it out and be comfortable that in time, you'll get where you need to be. Just know whether you're on the right road or not. Yes? Right?
Yeah.
If you're on the right road, stay on the road. You can go off, get back on the road after you refuel up and have your fun or whatever it is. So, yeah, a lot of that does come with experience and time. And I appreciate you saying maybe you're listening differently, or because it's just now been something that we continually talk about, that you're hearing a little bit more than maybe you did when we first had these same conversations. So,
well, yeah, it's one of those things where like you get frustrated when they just don't get it, and then it's more of an acceptance. Like they don't get it, and they're not supposed to get it. He didn't grow up with the same things we grew up with, and vice versa.
Yep.
And I think that's an important part too. Is like you saw somebody for who they were, and they were human, and you said that dude is no better than I am. I could do the exact same thing if I wanted to. Like for example, you could see Gavin and you could see him train, you could see him lift, and say, yeah, I can't. I'm not cut out to do what Gavin's doing because I don't have that same, for whatever reason, drive in the direction that he's going in, and that's completely okay because you got to go find your own. You know, like you said, you're not in love with powerlifting, but you fell in love with the process of getting really good at one thing, and you happen to be really good at it, and then that reward system of I achieved that goal, I would assume has to keep you hungry. Like, do you reflect on that depressive state that you were in even today? And kind of use.
Why are you assuming I'm still out of it? No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. No, it's a balance, man. It's back and forth. It's look, man. Even the brightest light will cast a shadow. Okay, you need both, and darkness is nothing but the absence of light. So you need both in your life. I think it's healthy to have both in your life. You want to experience pain so you can appreciate pleasure. You need both. The key is you need both. So what happens a lot of times is we have our scales tipped way too much in either direction. And that's all it is, man. Nobody has the secret sauce. Nobody has the answer. But yeah, I mean, and I think like, and you know this better than anyone, I am delusional. I believe I could be great at anything I want to be great at. Like if somebody said to me, they had a gun to my head that said, you need to somehow make it into the NBA, I will do it. I will absolutely be able to find a way. And I truly believe I can do it as a 5'5", stocky.
You could do it. You'd be a great game manager. You would carry all the gear around. Guys would love you. Here you go, sir.
I told you, John.
Here's your jock strap.
Need your water?
No, that's not what we were talking about. But that's the fun. When we had that conversation, I remember it. So we were talking about, I think like Olympic wrestlers, actually, ironically. And he's like, yeah, man, if I stopped weightlifting and I started training for the Olympics, I could become an Olympic wrestler. And I said to myself, I was like, this dude is actually insane. Like, he does not think the right way. And that's when it hit me. That's why he's so good at what he does, because he doesn't think like everybody else. Could he get there? I'm not going to be the one to tell him no, right? But the reason that's why he is where he is today, because he has limitless mindset to just go and do really what you want to do.
Yeah, for better or for worse. And like, look, the reality is, and I think this kind of speaks to a little bit of what you were just talking about. You touched on a really special point about how, maybe your parents or just people in general, if there's an age gap or anything like that, where there's just a lack of understanding, it's nobody else's responsibility to understand you, brother. Like that's what it is. It's nobody else has an obligation to save you. Nobody owes you anything. I think that if I'm very blessed, and I feel maybe, you probably feel the same. Yeah. My parents are together and they unconditionally love me and my 3 younger siblings. I'm very blessed to have that. That's not like a requirement. Most people don't even get that. So for me, I'm very grateful for that. It's up to me to save me. And so that's why there is a lot of pressure. There is a lot of pressure to perform, to excel. But I think also, speaking to what your dad was saying, is you have to learn how to fail fast, fail hard. And the only way you can do that is you throw yourself into the fire. So we all kind of have to learn these things on our own. It sucks, but you can't do it until you breach your comfort zone. You have to break out of that. Dude, I know you said before, Stu United, sometimes it makes you cringe a little bit, but I was inspired by that story more than what you've built with the Johnny Drinks brand, because at whatever age you were going in there pitching to raise money for a business that at the time you guys weren't even monetizing yet.
Yeah, it sucked.
So imagine that. This man had so much confidence to
I-
go in.
that's it's funny because I didn't, and like I had to fake it till you make it mindset, and then like you said, like you hit a wall so many times, and you know you have to keep doing it. You're like, I don't even care about hitting this wall anymore because I know I'm going to. So the failure thing, you are. I think everyone is afraid of failure for the first time, and everybody deals with this imposter syndrome. Inevitable, like that's inevitable, and it could last forever, right? Even you and I, you probably walk into a room sometimes saying like, people are still asking me about how to weightlift or how to eat, and like, yeah, I think I know, but there's probably somebody out there that's better than me. Like, you always are going to deal with that. It's just about now learning, and I think having an understanding and progressing over time is just going to diminish. But yeah, man, I dealt with that, and it was more of like, if I just keep faking it and telling the world that I am this thing, maybe one day I'll become this thing. And I don't know, man. But I take those lessons, and now it's like a lot easier to do what we do.
This is so, again, like I said, you say the word interesting, and you're right. You do need to walk the coals and feel the pain before you can put it in its place and grow from it. However, there becomes a place also where, no, there are no more failures. It's only shades of success, less degrees of success. So I'm listening to you, and I listen to you, and I got to tell both of you, you walk out of this room today, water off a duck's back, right? I have been around a lot of professional athletes, and I've seen them when they were young, 20-something years old, and I was younger around them. And I've also seen them as a 50-something year old, and they're still either the professional athlete that's 20-something years old, or they're the older version of themselves. And you know what runs consistently through those guys? That it's not an act. It's not an act. They do it better sometimes than others. There's water off the duck's back. They failed, and they don't even remember they failed. What happened? They know what happened, but they don't want their mind. Don't bring it to the forefront of your brain. Don't bring it to your lips. Don't say it and let your ears, just get rid of it. You said about failing at squatting 741, right?
Yep.
Why is that a failure? That's not a failure. You did it. So by measure of someone else that contested it or a judge that overtook, you still put 740 pounds on your back and went down and up. To me, you're ready for 750 just based on that alone.
Yeah.
So nothing, like all those things, yeah, you'll grow from it and you'll pull from it. And you'll be motivated differently. You'll walk into the room. Now you know what the room feels like, looks like, smells like. You got your dreads going. You have this whole thing going on. Maybe you roll some smoke out and you bust through the smoke. I don't know, wherever you want to do.
That's the walkout song.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
Man,
You get a walkout song.
I need a walkout song.
So please carry that with you, both you and anyone else, again, that potentially listens to this. Focus on what it is you want to accomplish down that road towards the end of the wherever you're going. And all the little things come in the way, like a pothole in the road, go around it.
Yeah.
If you keep your eyes on it, you go around it. If not, you blow out a tire because you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how about this? The fact that, he goes through this competition, and like you said, he could have reflected and said, this was a failure, I could have done better, and sulk. You get off a 6-hour flight, and what do you do that night?
Oh, we trained, baby.
He trains. He said he goes. Yeah, I gotta train at 8. I thought he meant like he's gonna land here at 8 in the morning and he find a time to train during the day. I was like, he's like, no, 8 at night. And I was like, so you landed at 8 at night and then went and squatted. And now again, this isn't like him going and walking on the treadmill. He's hitting his lifts again, as if, like you said, water off a duck's back. Whether he did really well or did really shitty, it's over, and now he's focusing on the next one, which is going to be Worlds.
Yeah, and that's, dude, it's crazy they bring that up too, because like, and this is something that you learn. One of the massive benefits of social media that we have, that I feel like other people, we have access to hyper successful people and what they think, what they say, what they do, right? So I have like 30 different saved folders on my Instagram page of just quotes from Kobe or interviews with Michael, right? And I will absolutely, it's not just like, oh man, that was super motivating. It's actually learning, like actually see the patterns in their behavior and in their thoughts, and you can adopt them for your own. Kobe was like that all the time. One, the job's not finished, right? So we still have a world championship to prep for. Whether I had a great meet, a bad meet, amazing meet, doesn't matter. Job's not finished, right? So it's, even if it was great, it's water off the duck's back, right? But then the other thing too is you have to learn to let go. And like, that's something that South Africa taught me the world championship I did there, because I was so hungry for the win, for the title, that I was chasing it. And as a result of that, it just, dude, it changed. I stopped having fun. I stopped enjoying myself. I stopped enjoying the training. And it just put me in this horrible place where after I lost, it took me like a few weeks to really sit down and be like, you know what? No, I'm going to let go. I don't care anymore. And then that gave birth to the mindset I had for Sheffield, where it was like, I don't care what happens. I'm just going to go all out. And we ended up having a positive experience.
Good for you. You don't let the highs get too high. You don't get the lows too low, and you find that balance. And so with that, let's take another break, and we're going to come back and I have a couple other questions I want to ask you. So
A few moments later.
Happy to be back. Put the smoothie away so you're not licking your lips while we're talking, Gavin. So I love the mindset thing, and I think that's the most important part, right? What I've gathered from talking to uber successful people, best of the best, would be it's almost like inevitable, right? Like it's step 0. It's not even step 1. If you don't have the right mindset, don't even bother trying or starting anything else. So you lock that part in, but let's get down to like the granular details of becoming a powerlifter. Are there things, because let's keep it real, right? If you want to be an NFL football player, there are things that you really can't control that you have to be genetically blessed with to become one, right? The size, it comes down to like the limb length and how fast you are. Are there things that you think to become a world champion powerlifter you have to have?
Yes and no. Yes, practically speaking, there are favorable genetics, as there would be in anything, right? However, I'm going to say no, because the reality is if you really want it, you can figure it out and you can get it, period. If we looked at all of the world champions from the past 10 years in every single weight class and every single age group, you would see all different sorts of shapes and sizes. That's the reality. So the key is really to play your strengths to your strengths and to build on your weaknesses.
Okay. Yeah, and I was going to say that too, because I saw a picture of you guys all at the SBD, and my man's jacked over here. But everybody else, I was like, I wouldn't even know what that was a picture for. It could have been bowling. And I was like, oh, I guess you guys are really strong bowlers. Like, you guys didn't look like, respectfully, like it was these massive mountains of human beings that if you were the average person, that's what you would assume a powerlifter would look like. And these are the best of the best. So I would assume it's more about the technique and the training. So let's assume you want to get into powerlifting today. What would be your first step?
So first step, practically speaking, walk into a gym, try squatting, try benching, try deadlifting. Don't go crazy with weight. Don't max out or anything like that. Just get under a bar and do it. Get familiar with your body. Then we have so many free resources out there. Learn how to do it. So just simply learn how to squat, learn how to bench, learn how to deadlift. The best way, in my opinion, is to go to a coach that's in person, that's good, okay? And have them work with you one-on-one, all right? That's definitely going to be the best option. Second best, just watch YouTube, man. There's so many great coaches out there that are always putting out great content that talk about optimizing your form and talking about how to program yourself and stuff. Just learn. Just
do you have a
spend
YouTube?
couple
You
hours.
have a YouTube?
I do, yeah. I don't
What
put
is
a
it?
ton of content on it. It's just my name, Gavin Adin, Gavin.
Gavin Adin. There you go. They can follow you. Watch
Yeah.
you.
TikTok is honestly where a lot of our educational content is, and that's just GA training.
Very
And what's the
educational.
TikTok account? Big Guy G? What's it called?
G Unit, no.
G Unit.
GA
Sorry.
training. GA training.
GA training. All right. So check out GA training.
Yeah, definitely check out that channel. There's, like I said, there's tons of resources out there. But again, the real first step is just to get into the gym, get under the bar, learn how to do it, and then start working with a professional to really make sure your form and your technique is good. After that, man, it just comes down to the training itself, and it's just work. One of the coolest things about powerlifting is it's super accessible, especially in the U.S. Like, there's usually a gym within 50 miles no matter where you go. And more or less, if you join one, there'll be more than enough help. There'll be people there that want to see you do well and want to see you grow. There may even be fellow powerlifters at that gym, depending on where you're at. So it's super accessible, super easy to dive into. But yeah, first step is just to start lifting weights.
Who is your favorite coaches to learn from?
Well, so I kind of take different pieces from different people. So for example, I think like the old school guys like Ed Cohen, Mark Bell, Dave Tate, these guys have a lot of knowledge because they were there when the sport kind of like just started. But it's important to also think about like the history of the sport. They started when powerlifting was just equipped. Equipped is like these really like thick denim shirts that you would wear when you bench and these really thick multiply suits when you would squat and deadlift, right? Now powerlifting is completely different. almost nobody really lifts and equipped anymore. It's all like raw, which is part of why it's grown so much. Raw, for those of you who don't know, is just like knee sleeve, wrist wraps, and a belt pretty much. And so in terms of those types of coaches, oh my gosh, dude, there's so many. I think as of right now, I would say, so John Song, he's my coach at the moment, and he's awesome. He's been really good. He's a full-time PT. Outside of that, there's a guy on Instagram called Swole Fesser. He's doing really, really well. Steve DeNovi, he owns a company called PRS Performance and also YouTube channels. Most of these guys you can find on YouTube. The list goes on and on. I think what's more important is if, let's say you were to type into YouTube, Powerlifting 101 or how to squat, my recommendation is to watch at least 3 videos from 3 different creators. Find the consistencies. More often than not, if there are some consistencies, try those consistencies. Those things will work for you. Even for myself, there are things that I will listen to that are absolutely true for 99.9% of people that if I were to apply would not work for me. And it's just simply because I have unique leverages. I'm experienced. There's things that I've gone through or things that I've developed that maybe you haven't yet. So honestly, you just have to find what works for you. The best bet is instead of looking for specific people, look for pre-qualifications, so to speak, things that would tell you that somebody's good at what they do, right? Like, would you hire a camera guy who only lifts weights? No, you want a camera guy who actually uses the camera.
I prefer they don't lift weights, actually.
Oh, yeah?
So I can boss them around.
Yeah, they can't beat you
too
up.
strong, and I'm like, whoa, take it easy.
Hey, hold
all
on
right?
a second there.
Just hold
no,
the camera.
I said please.
I don't need that. I don't need a swole body.
Yeah, take notes, Murph.
Roided out.
Yeah.
Fucking. Speaking of, I wanted to ask the question because everybody's thinking, I mean, look at the guy's shirt. Are you natural?
Oh, man, what a great question. I am, well, does creatine count?
Yes.
I am 100% natural.
Good.
Always have been, and as far as I know, I probably always will be.
I like how you hesitated on that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Always have been, and what was your next question?
So let me just again expand on this a little bit. 100% natural means what? You don't take anything but vitamins?
No, so there's the technical answer is there's USADA is like the drug testing company that tests for the UFC. They basically test for the Olympics, like it's WADA, their ban list. Anything on that list I cannot take. And there's some stuff that you can take out of meat. There's some, like for example, weed, marijuana. I believe you're allowed a certain amount outside of competition.
Really?
But if they test you within like 3 days of your competition and you test positive for marijuana, then you get
That's
popped.
ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure about that, but there's things like that. So for me, yeah, pretty much. I mean, basically, when in doubt, throw it out. You know, I take creatine
Let's talk about that.
monohydrate.
Tell us what you take so you know what's safe. And
Yeah, absolutely. So I take creatine monohydrate, whey isolate, pre-workouts that only have caffeine as their primary
right.
stimulant. Yeah, there are some banned stimulants. You do have to be very careful. Just look at the ingredients. Pretty much anything with like a pH, like dimethylene and like all that stuff, phenolate and all that stuff. That stuff you don't want to take.
no,
you know?
of course not.
And honestly, it's not really healthy for you to be taken anyway. But yeah, so yeah, you have to stick to. There's a list. You try and stick to the stuff that's not on the list. But honestly, outside of that, it's really anything that's like anything that would come from the ground. You're fine with. So like there's like dandelion root, which is a natural diuretic. You're okay with that. Yeah, most stuff you're really okay with. Tylenol, obviously, Advil, things like that you're okay with. You just always want to double check that list.
Lion's mane? How about
I
lions?
cannot take Adderall unless I get an exemption.
lion's
Right,
mane?
can't take it. Lion's mane? Yeah, you'd be fine.
Is that real? Like lion's mane is the mane
I
of
don't
a
really buy
lion?
into all that stuff, to be honest with
But
you.
is it lion's mane? Is that what
It's a
that
thing.
is?
Yeah, there is one. Yeah, there's also one called horny goatweed. I think John really
But
likes.
lion's mane, yeah, I love that one. Not for lifting, but the lion's mane, works. The first time I took a lion's mane mushroom, like it was like a coffee and mushroom mix.
Yeah.
You feel locked in, focused, a very focused energy. Have you tried it?
I don't think I've tried it. I don't
Really?
know.
Oh, you
it
gotta
might
try
have
it.
been in maybe one of my. I don't know.
No, I tried Four Sigmatics coffee. It's like a super coffee.
Okay.
Really good stuff. Yeah,
I'll
that
try
got you wired.
Yeah, I'll try it. I'm not really big on the supplements, man. Like I like to, I don't know. I like to not have anything that would be a crutch. You know, I like to make sure that like if I'm leaning on anything, it's my sleep, it's my nutrition from the perspective of just whole foods. You know, and then beyond that, you know, maybe some Krispy Kreme donuts every now and then. But then beyond that, then beyond that,
So,
you know.
go back to the sleep because we were talking about this before.
Yeah.
And I want to try to, if nothing else, give a nugget, right? A nugget to take away with you, which is, so you get interrupted from your sleep. You want to get 8-9 hours, and something keeps you up, right? Thoughts on your mind. And John, you had said what you do, which is was that for real? You write things down?
If I have to, yeah. Well, I try to get like 7. I try to get 8 hours. So if I fall asleep at anywhere from like 10, I'm not never 10, but 11 to like 12, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on the day. I try to get to 8 hours, whatever that time period is. And if something's keeping me up, it's normally either like my body's restless, and if I'm thinking about something, I have a whiteboard right out my hallway, so I'll just like write it down on my whiteboard if it's like a to-do thing. Everything else is like not a to-do list thing. I don't really put a lot of
How many times do you write my name on that whiteboard?
Oh God, I can't stop thinking about it. But like, I don't really put too much importance on a lot of things, you know. Like, so as long as I put it down, and if I forget about it, and I'm like, oh man, I forgot about it.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. And I'm glad you are doing that. And maybe you can, if you want, you write down on a pad and piece of paper. But the other thing that when you're up at night and you can't, for whatever reason, sometimes there's a reason, like you had a cup of coffee too late and you didn't realize it. Right? That's different. That's stimulant. I was up at 3 o'clock the other morning and I was like, why am I so wide awake? And I realized, I had a cup of coffee and it was way too late, so I shouldn't have did that. But on normal sleep, patterns, things that wake you up are helpful. Write it down so it's out of your mind and it's somewhere else for you to go look at the next day, whether it's I'm going to go pick up my laundry, or I need to make a phone call, or I need to carve something else out. The other thing is, when you feel that pressure of all sorts of stuff just coming at you, like, I can't believe I didn't do that, or I can't believe I blew that opportunity, or I can't believe that I worked my ass off and I came in third. Well, you've got to put that to a death. You've got to put those thoughts to death. They're done. They're dead. There's nothing I'm doing about it right now. They're gone.
That's a big one.
Put it to death. Put it to death, right? And the other is, tell yourself, and you'll learn this as you get older and you become a parent, because this is the one that helps me the most, is everybody's safe. Everybody's where they need to be. Everyone's going to be fine. Everything is going to work out. And those things that I say help me, but it also helps me understand, okay, everything's good. Everything's cool. Everyone's where they need to be. Everyone's healthy. And so one or all are going to, at different times, present itself to you. You're a very coachable person. You coach yourself. Coach yourself through those moments when you say you can't go back to sleep. Right?
That's you hit on one really good. About like, if you're gonna go do something about it, and the reality is no. When I was in school, if I had something pressing I had to go do, and that's what was keeping me up, I would say to myself, all right, then go and do it. Right? Like, if I had to go edit a video and it was stressing me, I'd say, all right, get up out of bed and go do it. And then your mind is like, well, I'd rather be sleeping. All right, then go the fuck to bed. Like that. Yeah. And that helps in the mind. You got to like play tricks in your mind sometimes. And I saw some study where, like, if you profusely sweat when you go present, like that you have a problem with that, you actually are like supposed to tell yourself, okay, I want you to sweat as much as you possibly can. Like, you force your body, just go sweat. And your body like tricks itself to now it can't. It's like almost afraid to do the same thing. 100%. So the sleep thing is like, if you can't sleep, then I'm going to force myself to not sleep, right? Like, you ever sit in a class or whatever, that's like, I haven't been in school in a while, but when you're sitting in class, like, oh, I can't fall asleep. I can't motherfucker. Like, that's the most tired you've ever been, is sitting in that classroom. Whereas now you're up in bed, you're like, now I can't sleep and I'm supposed to. So like, you reverse psychology yourself. And that's what worked for me as far as going to sleep really, really well.
And I know that works too, because I do that unintentionally, but actually for my drug test. So like, when you get drug tested,
don't fail. Dude, don't fail.
Oh my God. No. Yeah. Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. But what really sucks is the way that they do it. So for me, because of the level that I'm at, I get out of meat drug tested. So they'll show up to my house, and I'll have 60 minutes to let them in and do it. Yeah. They showed up at like 8 or 9 p.m. like 3-4 weeks ago. But usually the most common is obviously in the meat. So as soon as you're done with the meat, you'll get drug tested. They approach you. They say, okay, you have to come with me, whatever. And they follow you around everywhere. It's kind of weird. The weirdest part, though, is it's always a urine sample, sometimes blood as well. The blood is so easy. They just stick it in. They take some vials, done. The urine, though, you can't leave until you fill up a cup. And sometimes it's a little hard, because what happens is they have to be in that bathroom with you with the door closed.
Go.
So, dude, it's literally what it feels like. The guy will walk in there, and you have to bring your pants down to your ankles. They need to see everything. They need to see everything. And you have to hold the cup, and he closes the door, and he has to stare at you. If they do it, quote unquote, right, they have to stare at you while you do. So
He's staring at your old.
100%, bro. 100%. And it's
Does he ever comment on it? Like,
it's like, I thought it would be bigger. I guess the total and
good, bro. It must be cold over here, huh?
But maybe you're not ready for movies then.
Dude, you know what? Maybe I'm not. That might
Not
be the
those kind of
sign.
movies, man. That's tough, bro.
Not those kind of movies. But yeah, no, it's that one, because in your head you're like, all right, pee, and you can't.
Right.
Yeah, and your body's like, nope.
You gotta test. I'm gonna hold this in.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the mind is very intriguing for sure. How did we get here? Oh, we're talking about sleep. So yeah, you're if you had to prioritize one thing, you're saying it'd be sleep, right? That's your.
Yeah, 100%. Especially now at this point in my career, like sleep is everything.
Which is ironic because you don't even sleep that well. Like I talk to this dude, he's like 3 a.m. He's like, "Yeah, I just finished watching anime. I just saw this Demon Slayer." I was like, "Shut up, go to bed." But I want to say, like, you eat whole foods and your diet's very clean. And we're gonna talk about that next. But you do got a problem with the caffeine. I mean, how many milligrams of caffeine a day you think you're taking?
So when I'm not keeping myself in check, I'm probably pushing like 600-700 mgs a day. Sometimes a little bit more. But when I do keep myself in check, it's usually like, so this is my typical schedule. I'll break it down for you real quick. So I train 6 days out of 7, but only maybe 3 of those days are like crazy heavy, require lots of intensity, right? And usually those are like my main squat and deadlift days, right? On those days, I allow myself to have a pre-workout, a high stimulant pre-workout. Usually that's going to put me around 350 milligrams of caffeine or 400, something like that, right? That's not including any coffee I may have had that morning or whatever. The other days, I usually only allow myself a black cup of coffee before I train. And that's it. And like the rest of like quote unquote the fueling or the pre-workout comes from like fruit, Gatorade powder.
Really?
Yo,
You
yeah,
don't take
dude.
a pre-workout to like train non-SPD?
Oh no, what the heck? What's the point?
What the heck is the point? I don't know, Gavin.
No, well, here's the thing, dude. Like you have to look at what's in your pre-workouts. Most pre-workouts are trash. The best pre-workout is going to have a combination of electrolytes and stimulant. If you like stimulant. So one of the most important things you could do for your body is carbs and sodium, right? Potassium, magnesium. There's like a balance there, and hydrate. So usually Gatorade powder will get the job done. It has carbs, it has some sodium, it has some potassium. So that's usually like my go-to. If I combine that with some fruit, now I get some fructose. That's extra sugar, extra carbs. If you're training for more than an hour, you'll want to have that stuff during your workout because your cortisol, your test will drop after about an hour. Cortisol will go up. It's obviously not ideal for muscle. So you want to make sure that you're giving your body the fuel it needs to burn fuel and not your muscle as energy. That's the basis of that. So I try and make sure I'm always having some version of carbs, sodium, water, and just making sure that like in terms of the stimulant side of things, I have just enough to maybe get me going. So maybe again, like a black cup of coffee. But it doesn't need to be overboard because once you're warm, I'm sure you know this too. Like when you're wrestling and doing jujitsu and stuff, you're not like, oh my God, I need my pre-workout. You probably don't even take anything for it, you know, and you're fighting guys.
That's the difference though. You have somebody on you.
Yeah. So that's like almost like a natural stimulant in a way.
Right.
When you're lifting weights, at first, maybe you're a little cold, but after the first 20, 30 minutes, once your blood's going, you feel good.
But just keep in mind, guys, 700 milligrams is like 10 cups of coffee.
Well,
for those average human beings out
Listen,
there.
as he said, he hasn't been in school for a while. Let's not trust his math.
That is a lot of caffeine.
How much?
I think a cup is like 70 milligrams of coffee.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yes,
like 120,
dude.
130.
Is it?
One
Has
cup
to
of
be.
We're gonna have the GTS.
Maruf, can we look that one up?
Jamie,
GTS?
where's Joe
Jamie,
Rogan's
can we
Jamie?
look that one up? How many milligrams are in a cup of coffee? Of caffeine.
So, yeah,
95.
I was gonna say about 100. Yep.
Oh, I was thinking of a shot of espresso is about 60.
Yeah.
So 95 milligrams. So you're
And no calories.
Yeah,
Black.
not really. Yeah.
No.
I sometimes get anxiety if I have too much of that stuff.
Well, dude, so that's what was happening is like
Yeah.
your sleep. So it's a horrible cycle. Your sleep gets messed up. So now you're not getting as much sleep and you don't feel as good now when you wake up, right? And you're also like more dehydrated because it's a natural diuretic. Coffee will make you pee. So you're going to hypothetically be less hydrated. And then beyond that, you're stimulated and you're almost like overstimulated, right? So because you're basically tricking your body into thinking it has energy when it doesn't. So it's this horrible loop. You don't have energy to begin with. You're tricking your body into thinking it has energy, and it keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. So for me, the way that I found was the best is A, stop caffeine intake past 2 p.m., like no caffeine after 2 p.m., but B, don't have pre-workout every single day or don't have a high stim every single day.
That's a good point.
As he drinks his
Good
coffee
takeaway.
on the podcast.
Well, listen, this is a very intense.
No, you need this.
We need to give the audience what they deserve. All right,
Right.
so we have to be
Hopefully-
at top performance
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
I had
You're
my
bringing
coffee
it. You're bringing it. So,
Well, do you take? I mean, we talked about it before. Do you take any supplements? Do you take vitamins? And
Yeah,
minerals?
magnesium glycinate, vitamin D3, K2. Can't recommend that enough.
When do you take all this?
Fish oil. Right now, all in the morning, but I think I'm doing it wrong. I probably should be. Honestly, I think the best way, I'm not Andrew Huberman. That man's definitely the best. I mean, you know who that is. Definitely the best to listen to when it comes to some of this stuff. From what I've heard, anything from like, you take, let's say if you were going to take 2 a day, you take 1 in the morning, 1 at night. That's probably, I guess, the best way to do it. If you're going to take 4, 2 in the morning, 2 at night, that's probably how I should do it. I usually take them all at one time because I don't want to have to like keep taking pills and stuff. But yeah, dude, no, I take everything in the morning right now, and it's like usually right before my training. So I train like midday.
do you take your vitamins empty stomach or after you eat?
I don't really care. I mean, usually if I had to give like on average, it would be probably right after a meal because I'll eat breakfast. I'll try and chug like a whole 8 to 12 ounce glass of water, and with that will be some of the vitamins and stuff. Yeah, it's tough because I'm sure a lot of it gets flushed out anyway, but yeah, I try to get that stuff in. Creatine is like one of the more important ones. That's one of the most studied, if not the most studied, supplement. And there's a lot of benefits, not just muscular benefits, but also brain function and things like that.
I heard like it's like cures depression.
Cures is a strong word,
Cures
but
is a
I'm
strong
sure
word.
it does something.
It contributes a lot to brain function and hormonally and emotionally how you handle life.
Yeah,
People
I
don't
would
realize
not be
that.
surprised if it does. I mean, look, at the end of the day, everything works together, right? Like you can't have the one wheel of the car and expect everything to move. You need every piece, right? So like at the end of the day, if one thing helps you recover just a little bit better, that's going to help your anxiety, that's going to help you think clearer, and that will then make you more productive. And if you're more productive, maybe that will then, again, help you sleep better because you have less stress. There's all these things work together. The idea is to kind of optimize this stuff to the best of your ability.
That's a great point.
What's your diet look like right now?
So I've been like super, super strict, contrary to popular belief. Dude, literally, it's every meal is ground beef, jasmine rice, and vegetables. So carrots or bell peppers.
Every meal.
Every meal. Sometimes I'll
meals?
throw eggs in the morning, but
I was
that's
going
it.
to say, you got to have an egg in there somewhere.
Wait,
no?
you wake up and have ground beef and rice?
Oh yeah,
You're
100%.
sick.
Yeah, dude. You get used to it. It's honestly not that bad because ground beef is like, it's not that bad compared to chicken and turkey. Oh my god.
And how many meals are you having a day?
Three real
That's
meals.
it?
Yeah,
Really?
and then a shake, on top of that.
Okay, so you wake up, you have ground beef, rice, some eggs.
Yep.
You train. Do you eat before you train?
Well, my eating is like a banana and the Gatorade powder with creatine and whatever else.
Okay, so you try to limit like the heavy.
Yeah, I
protein.
don't. Well, also too for me when I compete, it's a weight class sport. I compete at 205, so 205 pounds. It's 93 kilos. I don't weigh 205. I weigh like 210 to 215. So I have to water cut.
Come on. Don't lie to my audience. Don't lie to my audience. Over
Yeah,
here.
I have to water cut. No matter what, I have to water cut. So I always end up having to water cut quite a bit. And so usually that means I don't really get to eat much the day before or the morning of the competition. So, and again, dude, like, bro, you could take training out of the equation. You could last 30 days without food, right? Maybe let's say a week without water, if that. But point is, your body can go quite a bit without what it needs, right? When it comes to sleep, not so much. You try it. Like 3 days no sleep, like it's brutal. You turn into a zombie. Yeah, one night even is bad. So like that's really like, again, you try and optimize all these things. At the end of the day, like the food, I think it's really all in your head more so. Like people are like, oh, I need like 3 meals before I train. It's like, bro, I don't know. Do you really need like 3 meals to just do some curl? It's like, I don't know. Yeah.
Right. Good point. I work out in the morning. I don't eat until I'm done.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's
a lot of
good.
people. A lot of people feel good that way. They train fasted.
Yeah, well, at my age, this is what it's resorted to because, you try to eat less and you're counting calories and you're trying to minimize the damage of
Who's counting calories? You?
lifting. Well, I do not, when I say count calories, I don't count everything I eat, but I am mindful of in a very roundabout way that, I don't need to have that over that. I can skip out on this by fasting, and I saved my idea of fasting, not that I'm a proponent of fasting, just that, I just cut out a meal and it's probably 800 calories, 700, 800 calories in my typical go-to breakfast, right?
Yeah,
So if I just bonused by 800 calories, then I know I can have a third piece of chicken, let's say, or
Ice cream.
something else, or ice cream, or anything else that I want to have.
Interesting approach. Yeah.
So I know within a balance of how many calories I'm taking. I know my stout beers are higher in calories than light beers.
That's okay. So you got it. Understood. Well, we're going to wrap this up. But before we do, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to be back very soon.
A few moments later.
What you were doing, how you prepared to do what you were doing, some of the peaks and valleys of your experiences. So what's next? Where are you going next?
Up next is the World Championships in, I believe, Malta. It's a small island off the coast of Italy. Very
Nice.
excited for that. Yeah, I'm about
Bill-
10 weeks out.
Bill Pascral's favorite place, by the way.
Oh, look at that.
He said
It all
that.
ties
Really?
together, full
Malta,
circle.
yeah.
He was our guest last time.
Yeah.
I'm excited now.
So that is, what are the dates?
I believe I compete on the 16th of June, which might be a Friday.
I'm there.
You are there?
Hell yeah. You serious?
16th of
I
June?
haven't stuck with this guy for 3 years to not go to Malta. It's been a rough road, man.
Well, I
You
appreciate-
want to go too, Maruf? What do you want to do there?
I mean, I appreciate, if I'm hearing you correctly, I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, we all got the invite.
Of course,
But
absolutely.
but I don't know.
Absolutely. The day ones, they got to be there.
100%.
So, no, but good luck with that. That's cool. And, yeah, obviously we'll be watching and listening and, keeping pace with your weeks before you go. And if you're going to go, that's cool, man. And you should.
How far? How I don't like flying.
It's probably like, so.
He doesn't like flying. So how else can he get to Malta?
Can I
Any
swim?
suggestions?
Yeah, you could swim. You could swim. I could see it.
Yeah.
You float.
No, I don't actually. How far is the flight? 7 hours?
If I had to guess, it'd probably be probably 6 to 7. But there's no direct flight, so you'd probably have to go to like Rome or Venice or something like that, and then come in. But I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
Malta's the southern part of Italy, so you can
believe
fly
so.
into.
I think you fly Sicily.
Huh?
Can you fly Sicily straight?
Sicily has an
Yeah, I think it
airport,
does.
right?
Yeah.
I believe it has an international.
I haven't even
airport.
tried looking yet.
Naples. I mean, Naples is a port. You could always take a
I'm sure
boat.
Spirit flies right to.
You can get a car. You can get on a cargo plane.
Yeah, they'll put you right on the wing.
I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna look.
Let's look that one up. Well, cool, man. That's exciting. Now, I don't know. Like, do you have numbers in your mind as far as weight that you want to hit at Worlds?
Yes and no. I mean, of course, I have expectations of what I think will be possible and what I think we can do. I think that given the Sheffield meet, we were kind of looking at Sheffield as if it was a tune-up, you know, and just to kind of give us like a decent projection for what we're capable of.
Right.
At the end of the day, I'm going to be going as hard as I can, and we're going to push my body to the absolute extreme, you know. So for me, that's the goal. Wherever that ends up is where it ends up. If we have a really, really strong, really, really good day, then we'll end up doing better than we did at Sheffield for sure.
Got it. Will you hit a stronger lift in prep than you will on the stage?
Sometimes you do. For Sheffield, I did not. For Sheffield, I think the heaviest squat I took was 728, and the heaviest deadlift I took was 728. We ended up squatting 741 and deadlifting 750. So, yeah, it depends. But for this meet in particular, we will probably at least touch what we'd want to hit, because you need to know kind of where your bearings are, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay, gotcha.
So it helps to know. You know, it's not necessary, but it definitely helps. And of course, as a lifter, I mean, for me, it doesn't matter so much anymore, but especially for beginner, intermediate level lifters, the confidence is an aspect, right? So like, if you were to hit, let's say 700 pounds in training, then you're going to have more confidence that you can hit it in the meet than if you hadn't, right? So
do you have a mantra that you say before you lift?
I know I can. I know I can. I know I can.
get Thomas the
Thomas the Train. Why not? You grew up with that.
Yeah, you know,
No,
I
actually,
might
it's
have
not
to.
Thomas the Train. It's the little. That's so funny. You guys are so young. Little engine that could.
The little engine that could.
Okay.
Wow.
Thomas the Train was.
It's not, you're describing John right now. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm
I love
gonna get him tattooed. If you guys can't see, I just got my whole.
No, they see. They see your hairy legs too.
They're actually not hairy. I just shaved it because I got a tattoo.
Oh no, but
You guys can't see that over there.
The
You're not-
little engine that could.
Yeah.
Choo choo.
Choo choo. So you don't do you put yourself in a mental state?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the
Tell
lift.
them what you actually do. Come on.
Oh,
You
man.
meditate?
I mean, no. So you're talking about like when you're actually in it. going
Yeah,
through
I
lifts.
want to.
It's a little dark, bro. I don't know if you
it
want
is.
to go there.
We're gonna edit this video really well.
Okay. So basically, what I do is, especially for the heaviest stuff, the stuff that I know I'm gonna push myself, I bring myself to a state where, essentially, I want to kill myself. Like I hate myself so much that I actually like look forward to inflicting pain. Like when I go for like that 741 squat or the 750 deadlift, and I know that it could mean the win, and it could mean so much more than just the lift. I actually look forward to like my muscle ripping off the bone. Like I bring myself mentally to a place of just such a deep, deep, dark place that fight or flight is immediately triggered and my body has no choice. Every motor neuron in my body is freaking on, you know? And to do that, everybody does it differently. For me, I call upon everything from past traumas or pain or any memories that I have that may cause that and may naturally trigger that for me. Sometimes it's positive stuff too. Like sometimes I'll make up scenarios in my head, like, you know, I'm bloody, beaten, and battered, and all the people I love are behind me, and I have to protect them. You know, that sort of thing. And that's like the state that I will get myself to. And it's a very raw, very passionate state, but I believe it's very necessary. It's also kind of what makes it fun and healthy. It creates a healthier lifestyle.
Great. Well, why not just do smelling salts? Isn't that?
I do that as well. Don't worry, that's in there.
The one time he told me that I did one powerlifting meet, and he said right before I got on, he says something like, you know, take yourself to that place, and take yourself to that place. Those 5 words, it did something to me mentally. I didn't take myself there, but it was like, all right, John, you got one shot at this. Lock in and do everything you can. But the one analogy he gave when he's deadlifting is he's like, yeah, you know, I just imagine the bar is the throat of somebody that's trying to kill my mom, and I'm taking a knife into this guy's throat, and when I grab the bar, I'm shoving it into this guy's throat, and I was like, dude, what are you talking about, man? He's like, yeah. Well, anyway,
no,
good luck.
But
I'm like, whoa, what? But again, like that's
real,
almost like the bliss in this is like it really. And we talked about it on the last podcast with Bo, is bring yourself to that place of it really is fight or flight, life or death. There's a beauty on the other side when you don't die, right? The squat didn't kill you. You made it through to the other side. Like that's so euphoric. And I think more people need to channel that, and maybe you can't do it for like a 9-to-5 job.
Here's how I describe it, because there are some people who don't get that, and they think I'm crazy. Why do you think you would be able to accomplish something that's abnormal by being in a state where you're normally at? It doesn't make sense. We're chilling right now. I feel good, right? I'm around good company. I feel good. Why? It would be asinine. It would be insane for me to assume I could accomplish something that no human in history has ever accomplished before being in this state. This is normal. It doesn't make sense. It's not. It's not possible. You have to bring yourself to that state.
That's a really good point. Yeah, we're not deadlifting 800 pounds right now.
Right.
You'd be like, nah,
Right.
well, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's a really good point, and I hope people pull from that one. So I wrap up every podcast by asking 2 questions to my guest. Number 1, what has been your most humbling down moment you've had in life? And follow that up with what has been your most accomplished moment in your life?
Oh, man. Well, I think I'll stick to the context of training, because I think I could probably find moments in every area of my life.
You can pick whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, I think for sure one of my most, it's kind of 2 parts. One of my most humbling moments was like this combination of these 2 experiences. The first was when I had gone to Colgate, and they had this entrepreneurship group, and I walked into the room, and I was like, oh man, I'm so excited. I can't wait to do this. Can't wait. And I had all these ideas and whatever. And I realized how worthless ideas are. And everybody in the room was successful except for me. At least that's how I looked at it. And what was really humbling, it wasn't that these people didn't want to help. It's that they literally couldn't, because I had nothing to give. I had nothing for them to help me with. And that was humbling, because I went from thinking like, oh man, like I'm going to be successful. And to thinking like, oh, I'm actually like nothing. Like I'm literally nothing, nobody. And it's that experience in combination with how I felt after placing 4th in South Africa, where I had given everything I could possibly give, made just massive, massive leaps and bounds in terms of my commitment to my training, my nutrition, sleep, everything. No stone was left unturned. Not only did I lose, but I placed 4th, right? And my family, that was the first meet since my very first meet that my family had actually come to and seen. They flew 15 hours to South Africa to watch just for me to lose. And that was really humbling. That was like, that was a massive sense of self-despair. Like it was really like, I don't even know if I'm capable of accomplishing what I've set out to. And that was something to definitely kind of work through and break through. The flip side, I think it's tough because I think the moments that I've had that I feel were some of my biggest accomplishments, still I could see failures in, I could poke holes in. One of them was definitely hitting that world record because it was the biggest stage powerlifting has ever had to offer. It's been after all of this stuff, after this journey. My family, again, was there. My mom said it was like one of the 3 times that she's ever seen my dad shed a tear. Oh. So it was that. And obviously, again, that was stripped away from me right after. So everything kind of like is bittersweet. But I think one of the other really powerful moments would be with my siblings. And it's not necessarily a specific moment in time. It's what I see in them that I'm hoping is a reflection of what I've been able to show them through my actions, right? So if I show them what's possible, that you can set your mind to something, you can have a vision for yourself, believe in yourself and put in the work, you can do it, you can accomplish it. If I don't just say that, but I do that, they may learn from that. And I think I'm seeing that in them. I think I'm seeing that they can, it may not be lifting. I mean, one of my brothers loves art, but now I want him to see that he could be the best artist in the world, right? And why not? And it's my job to show him that. And so because I'm seeing that in them, I think that's probably one of my favorite accomplishments.
Wow.
Well, that was excellent. I appreciate
powerful stuff, man.
You're very articulate. You have a great way about you. You exude confidence. You're very selfless. You share. You contribute to a room. And I've recognized that when I first met you when you came into our house, and you are perfectly imperfect. Okay. And you have so much that you have accomplished that if it's one thing I would love to see from you as you go through these things, it's that water off the duck's back. And you are going to accomplish anything that you want. You've already done it. Focus on those things you're meant to be in this space that you're in right now. But it's just a pleasure to truly meet you, know you as my son is here, and I think about the people I want him to surround himself with. You're one of them.
That means the world to me. Wow. Seriously,
right,
thank you so much.
Well, cheers to that. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll have to just stay on track with Gavin and celebrate more of his success. All right,
Thanks for
cheers,
watching, guys. Cheers.